Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation. And look who's back. Melanie, how are you?
I am well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely great to have you on. We are going to talk about the year 1984. In my humble opinion, Mel, I think 1984, pound for pound, was the greatest year in hard rock and heavy metal history. So we're going to have a bit of a trip down memory lane. I'm going to throw some albums at you. You're going to tell me what you think of it. Maybe you saw the tour. You've got some little anecdotes here and there. Initially, when we pitched this idea to each other, we were trying to get a top five. I had a look at it. I just couldn't do it because there are so
I had a really
many
hard time.
great albums. But there's going to be a couple that I go, this is right at the top of the pops. So without further ado, let's talk about 1984. Metallica, Ride the Lightning. What do you think of that album? I think that's
So,
the second album. It followed Kill 'Em All, killer.
so this is when I sort of did my list, this was my number one.
Ooh,
This is my
okay.
favorite Metallica album, still to this day. And I mean, Kill 'Em All was great, but this is where I feel like they really came into their own.
Bit more
Every,
polish.
every song was just like, I love that album front to back. That's just absolutely, it's an album that I still listen to, that I still go back to on the regular. I mean, it's that good. It's that good. They were really, really on fire.
Yeah, I think Kill 'Em All was like a garage rock album. The production values weren't as strong as Ride the Lightning. Obviously, had a bigger production. There's a lot more thought in the arrangements. They had a greater sense of dynamics and atmosphere. I love Kill 'Em All. I think it just hits
Me
you
too.
between the eyes, and there's such youthful enthusiasm, and that's what I like about it. That was groundbreaking in its own right, but to follow it up, there's always that sophomore slump, the second album syndrome. If anything, it was an uptick.
Was definitely an
And
uptick. I mean,
then
Creeping Death is my favorite
and then
song.
Master of Puppets, that's even a further uptick. So this is a band that's maturing. Whatever thoughts I have about Metallica, middle of their career onwards, that's for another show. But those early years,
Exactly.
you cannot
But yeah,
deny, and they had a chemistry. So I just think this is one of the most outstanding thrash albums. And 1984 was a great year for thrash, and that San Francisco Bay scene was so strong. You're on the East Coast, you're not on the West Coast. Did you ever visit the San Francisco area, and
I have been to San
Were you
Francisco.
familiar with this thrash scene?
Yeah, yeah. It was definitely it was very early on, billed as the alternative to the LA scene. And if you listen to like underground radio, like college radio and stuff like that, that's who was playing all of this thrash, this heavier stuff. And
Mm,
that's where I heard Metallica for the first time. And yeah, there was definitely a buzz around them. And then when Ride the Lightning came out, I mean, everybody was just all in. Everybody was just like, they're the absolute best. And for me, huge Iron Maiden fan, that album kind of took over my listening. I listened to that album probably more than any other album that year, even though we will be talking about an amazing Iron Maiden album. But it was that good. It was that fresh. It was that new. It was that shiny that everybody was just every party you went to. I was first year college, and every party you went to, that album was on. Everybody loved that album.
yeah, absolutely. It had a punk sensibility where it was there was a lot of speed, but it had melody, so it would pick up, like the more traditional metal of your Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, but take it to that next level. So it was sort of, you were starting to see in metal this really potpourri of punk, metal, hardcore, all these different influences, putting it in a pot and coming out with something that was just sounded so fresh. When I heard it, I was just blown away. Why don't we talk about Iron Maiden? Because in my opinion, Power Slave is probably one of their strongest albums. For my money, it's probably got the greatest 1-2 opening punch in any heavy metal album of all time. You know, Aces High, 2 minutes to midnight. What can you say?
So this is they're at the height of their powers, right? This is just now it's not my favorite. Peace of Mind is my favorite, but it is definitely top three for me. Probably number two for me. I saw this tour, World Slavery Tour, which of course produced Live After Death. So it's legendary. Every single song, even like the lesser tracks are so good. I did a ranking one time and I put Back in the Village as my least favorite on this album. And it's just because the ending is kind of weird, but still a great song. Rhyme was so inventive and
Mm.
everybody just was like, wow, this is just so interesting. You know, that it was thoughtfully done, thoughtfully produced and thoughtfully put together. The album cover is absolutely legendary. The tour was legendary. It really, I feel like it really solidified Iron Maiden as Iron Maiden. It really, here in America, it was really what broke them. It was really what brought them to the forefront, got them a little bit of airplay, not much, but a little bit of airplay. But the tours were just selling out left and right. It was really their first proper headlining tour here. They had done some headlining tours. They had headlined with Peace of Mind, but this was so much bigger. This was just so much more ambitious, and they just took this album and brought it to life. And again, this is an album that is on regular rotation, and it's an album that they continue to revisit. You talk about Aces and 2 minutes. I mean, they've been in their live set forever. They're fan favorites. They're songs that even casuals know. Um, Rhyme, they just brought that back this last tour, and it's just amazing. It's an amazing song, and it's just really well done. I mean, the other thing about this album is that it's and we've talked before about the fact that Iron Maiden is cerebral, you know, it just the lyrics are interesting and thoughtful and intelligent. And yeah, this just like I said, this just solidified them as being my favorite band.
Yeah, look, not much more I can say about that one, other than it's probably my favorite sounding Iron Maiden. The separation of instruments. Martin Birch, he had the magic touch. I don't know what Martin Birch. A lot of his production is like up and down. Some albums sound clearer than others, but anytime he touched an Iron Maiden album, it sounded like gold. And this album was just fantastic. All right. Moving along, I'm going to talk about Van Halen 1984. I love this album. I think this is when Van Halen were fair square in the mainstream, because I think previous to that, even though that the first Van Halen, which is a groundbreaking debut album, and I think it's one of the greatest debuts of all time, did go to Diamond certification 10 million, I always associate that album as a fan album, you know, where Eddie Van Halen aficionados, not a Joe Public sort of album. 1984 is where it went to the masses, where you have your mum and pop, your sister, your brother. You see it on pop shows. Like, I'll take it down to the essence of that song, Jump. You know, it's got the sense, it's got a hook, but you've got that Eddie Van Halen solo, and it's so memorable. So I think this band just pitched it perfectly, where they had the pop sensibilities, but they had just enough to keep the traditional metal and hard rock fans on the hook and take them along on this journey. You had David Lee Roth, who was just such a wonderful frontman. not the world's greatest singer, but a true showman. I just think they were at the peak of their powers. And when it came to popular culture, I don't think they ever reached much further heights than that. I mean, Sammy Hagar continued it, but I don't think they were just as popular as 1984, which went to, diamond certification as well. Just look at the songs on the album, Panama, Hot for Teacher, even the deep cuts like Drop Dead Legs, House of Pain. Eddie's on fire. So I think this is a great album because it's the merging of the old Van Halen, guitar aficionados, hard rock, and the pop sensibilities of what was going to happen in the future. Do you like this album?
I love this album. I was a little when Jump came out, you're kind of like, ooh, what is going on with this synth? You're a little bit disappointed. I mean, I still like the song, but it's not my favorite song.
But the
I think
guitar solo is nice, isn't it? It's a
oh,
nice
it's
little
beautiful,
hook.
beautiful. One of the
Hooks you
things
in.
that really solidified this album, that really took this album to the next level, was MTV. Their videos, especially the one for Hot for Teacher, which is a great video, was played like every 5 minutes. And I think that that really took it over the top because people who maybe don't listen to AOR, rock radio, or whatever, were now seeing this video and hearing these songs. And I think that that really helped take this album to the next level. I think it was the height of their powers. It's too bad because we all know what happens after this. But it it was definitely an album that crossed over and became not just a rock album, but
Uh,
sort of a popular album.
Yeah, and it's a personality album, isn't it? It's got lots of personality. Through the lyrics, you can just imagine, it's David all over, David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
So, you've got Eddie's personality in the musicology side, you've got David Lee Roth's personality in the lyrics. There's a whole different tangents in 1984 of hair metal, and there was some really, really stellar offerings that I'd like to briefly go through. Out of the Cellar by Rat, outstanding album. I probably prefer their EP, which was raw, gritty, garage. But as an album, I don't think there's you can't deny the smarts of a song like Round and Round, can you? And as a band, they were a really underrated outfit. Warren DeMartini, great guitarist, played live. They were pretty good. What did you think of Rat, and what did you think of this album? I think it's a really
So
strong album.
it is a really strong album. It's my favorite of their albums. And yeah, I do like the EP, but it's, technically an EP, but um it's a great album. And 1984 is where you're starting to see the beginnings of hair metal
Yes.
uh sort of take hold. For me, it's their best album. I think it kind of all went downhill subsequently for them, and I kind of checked out in the late 80s with them. But this album was great, and it had a lot of promise. Um, for me, it didn't live up. The next albums didn't live up to that promise, but it is a great album. I mean, I always thought that Stephen Pearcy was the weakest link, but you can't deny Robin and Warren were amazing guitarists, and it was a great album, and it was really um, one of the albums that also sort of started to put LA on the map,
Yeah.
and know what happened subsequently with that. But we were talking about
Good
Metallica
songwriting though. Good
doing
good
the
songwriting. They're a good. I mean,
doing
I
the
think great songwriting craft on it. So I think a lot of Rat get compared to Motley Crue. Motley got all the limelight. They had all the tabloids. They had
this is
maybe a
better.
stronger image, but to me, Rat pound for pound wrote better songs, had better production, better albums,
Absolutely.
but didn't sell as much. But for a brief moment in time, and it was around that Round and Round song that got played in American radio and flogged. Rat had a bit of a light on them, and this album showed great promise. And I think it's probably one of the best hair metal albums in '84. There's another one I
Right.
want to spotlight, but I think it's a really strong album.
Great.
Dokken, Tooth and Nail, another great hair metal album. I think, I don't know what your opinion is, but I think Lynch and Dokken were a fine combination, probably combative as personalities, but the songwriting, the song craft on this album is just great. Like, just got lucky. Just look at the hooks on that song. There are so many hooks on this, and if you took away the metallic side of it and the guitar solos, it's you could throw songs like that to an alternative band. It's just because they're metal, they had an image. Good songs are good songs, Mel. And I think pound for pound, this album's just wall to wall of hooky melodic songs that got played a fair bit on radio, but they never got to that next level because they were infighting. And I think they just got lost in the hair metal. What do you think of this album?
I love this album, and Dokken is my favorite of the glam hair metal bands. And if you go to this track listing, I mean, every song is everybody knows every song. I mean, hit after hit after hit after hit after hit on this song, on this album. I think that George Lynch got everybody's attention. Don Dokken got everybody's attention. It is unfortunate that they kind of shot themselves in the foot. Um, but they have great albums after this as well. But this album for me is just a great and this is my introduction to them. And this is where I took notice of them and kept an eye on them. And I played this album quite a bit, actually. I just played it the other day.
I
It's
still
still
play it. I still play it.
still a really good album, and like you said, it's catchy, it's melodic. You just
Hooky.
sing along. Yeah, definitely great album.
Hair metal had a lot of connotations. It was kind of very much derided, but what a lot of people don't realize is that there were so many great songs, so many great outfits. People get lost in the imagery of what hair
Exactly.
metal was all about, but there
Of
was
the
some
future,
great
right? It's
acts.
1984, but now everybody, when they think of Dokken, they think of like 1987. They don't think of the early. Same thing with Rat, right? They don't think about the earlier
Yeah,
albums.
absolutely. Dio, Last in Line. I like this album a lot. A lot of people talk about Holy Diver, which is an outstanding album, but for my money, I have a soft spot for this album. I love the Last in Line song. I think it's powerful. I love those really epic symphonic type of Dio songs. He was at the top of his powers. He was a bit of a draw card. That was probably as high as he got in America. He had a bit of a stage show, but I like the Last in Line. We Rock. It's a classic opening track. For me, I think in the Dio solo band, I love Holy Diver. I love the Last in Line. Sacred Heart was a dip. Vivian Campbell, he was a guitar hero. Crack band. What do you think of the Last in Line? I think that's a strong album, 84.
I love this album, and yeah, I mean, maybe it was a little bit of a dip from Sacred Heart, but definitely in that trilogy of Dio. Um, very excited for this album to come out, uh, because I love Dio. I love everything that he does, and so I was really looking forward to this album. Was not disappointed. The video for Last in Line was very popular on MTV. It's a great little
Mm,
video. Uh, yeah, I saw this tour, and you're right, he was at the height of his powers, and the whole band was firing on all cylinders, and Vivian Campbell was just amazing.
yeah,
Uh, I wish that they had been able to stay together and produce more stuff. And yeah, I mean the next album was definitely a dip, and then subsequently there's great stuff, but it's definitely a dip. I think that there's a definite 1-2 punch these first two albums that really
yeah,
took the momentum of what he did with Black Sabbath, and brought it into his band and brought it into his own.
absolutely. Love at First Sting, Scorpions. Again, another album that hit was at the commercial peak in 1984. A lot of these songs are staples of the Scorpions and staples of any show that wants to put in a heavy metal song or an 80s song. Rock You Like a Hurricane has got a life of its own. I've seen it in sports shows. Still Loving You, Big City Nights. Band Was on Fire. Is this where it's at for you when it comes to Scorpions? Love at First Sting? I love this album.
I love this album too. However, I am more of a 70s. I prefer 70s Scorpions, but I saw this tour. It was they were definitely they made a conscious effort to kind of move into that direction, and it certainly paid off for them. It absolutely paid
Big.
off. They made a calculated choice. Herman Railbarrow talks about that in his book. They made a conscious effort to move into this direction, and it absolutely paid off for them in spades. This album is the album that they're known for uh, amongst the not only the metal community but the masses in general. It was massive, and like you said, these are songs that have staying power and that your casual fans know as well. Yeah, I mean, great album.
Yeah,
Hit after hit on.
lyrics are as dopey as doo doo, but you forgive it. But musically, it packs a punch, and they're on fire. And Klaus sings a storm, and yeah, I love this album, and it's just got such a big sound. It was just built for stadiums.
Bombastic,
That's
yeah,
that's the thing that kind of held back a lot of the Scorpions albums of the 70s. They had that sort of very compressed, you're in a little boxy studio sort of sound, but this one was sort of like widescreen and it was just built for stadiums. Love that
absolutely.
album. Let's talk about a bit of Whitesnake. Slide It In. Arguably, maybe their greatest album. Now, in '84, there were two versions. My preferred version is the Mel Galley, Mickey Moody, Colin Bomber, Hodgkinson was on the bass, Cozy Powell, and David Coverdale. They do a remix. They wipe Mickey Moody's guitar. They bring in this blonde bombshell guitarist from Thin Lizzy called One John Sykes, and he puts in his magic, like little mayonnaise, and it's a bit of a radio hit. It sells 1 million, and that lays the foundations for a couple of years later with the 1987 album. I love this album. Love Ain't No Stranger, Slide It In. So many great songs on this. Do you like this album?
I love this album too. I love this album too. And I like both versions of this album. I love me some John Sykes, so I'm all for John Sykes. But I do really like the, I guess you would call it the OG. It's more bluesy.
Yeah.
You can see where, if you know the earlier Whitesnake and you know David Coverdale's background, you can sort of see where this is going. You can kind of like watch it happen. You sort of you have this album and then you kind of know what's coming next. You kind of know what direction he's going in. And I like the 1987 album. I think he maybe took it a little bit too far. Um, but but I think that this album is for me better than the 1987 album, even though the 1987 album was massive.
Yeah, look, I think the 1987 album had some songs that were just high, like Still of the Night's one of my favorite songs of all time. But there is filler on it. Slide It In doesn't have much filler, if at all. And I love it's definitely more bluesy. And the UK version for me is where it's at because I don't know. I think the bottom end with Cozy Powell, it's got a more earthy, garagey bomb feel to it, whereas the US version's a little bit polished.
Like
You
a
know,
little slicker. Yeah,
made for American FM radio. But
absolutely.
Coverdale's vocals were just on fire, and yeah, I think that's a great album. While we're in the Purple family, Perfect Strangers. Now, I've said on my channel, I think this is one of the greatest comeback albums of all time. Knocking at Your Back Door, the song Perfect Strangers, Nobody's Home. the tour 1984 was a triumph. In America, I think it was only second to Bruce Springsteen, and that's in the Born in the USA era, which is not too shabby in any shape or form. Did you like this album?
I love this album. I saw this tour and I was excited to see that they were back. And yeah, I mean, it definitely was a return to form. And I wish that it had lasted longer than it did. But yeah, I mean, I think that it belongs in the to be spoken of when you're talking about the pantheon of Deep Purple albums as a
Yep.
whole. I think
Yes.
it has its place.
And they're all they're pretty engaged. You feel like there's the chemistry is there. Um, I get a shiver up my spine where I hear the start of Knocking at Your Back Door, and John Lord does that little Jaws theme, and then Roger Glover comes in with the bass, and Ian Pace. Like they each member of the band brings in their bit. It builds and builds, and then Ian Gillan
So
comes in, and
like
it's just
layers.
just layers, and it's just great. It was such a strong comeback album. I wish they continued with it, but it just wasn't meant to be. Wasp's debut. I love that album.
I do
Blackie
too.
Lawless, Chris Holmes. I think that's the best lineup. That's their best songwriting. They had a very strong personality. It is Blackie's vision, and I just wish they continued with it. I didn't mind The Last Command, but I think their debut songwriting, I Want to Be Somebody, that's a song that Alice Cooper would chop off his arm and leg for in that era. Um, he was out Alice Coopering Alice Cooper. What do you think of this album?
Great album, great debut. Kind of, yeah, I mean, I sort of think that although subsequent albums are good, I think that they didn't reach, for me, they didn't reach the heights that they did on the first album.
I like the
Um,
second, underrated,
I like the second album as
but
well,
the
but
first one is where it's at.
absolutely, absolutely. And they were a band that kind of didn't get a lot of airplay on FM radio. Again, you had to listen to like college radio or underground radio for that, or MTV or whatnot. But um on the strength of a couple of songs, they were able to get their foot in the door and pry it open and make a statement. And it is definitely a statement piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Blackie did he was playing the first album last year as a bit of an anniversary
Yes,
tour around the
yes,
traps.
he
But
was.
this is where it at. They had some really good chemistry on this album, so definitely worth checking out. One I was going to just briefly touch on. I don't think it's their strongest album, but I will raise it, and I think it was a pretty a strong album. Was Defenders of the Faith by Judas Priest. I think it was a little bit in the shadow with Screaming for Vengeance, but there's some mighty tracks on that album, and
Great stuff on that.
I think a lot of folks thought it might have done better because Screaming for Vengeance sold triple platinum. This one didn't do as well. It probably didn't have that killer single because the previous one had You've Got Another Thing Coming, and there
Right.
wasn't any songs on this album that were at that level. But I think pound per pound, it's a pretty rocking metal album, and I think it's quite underrated and it's aged quite well. What do you think of this, Defenders of the
I
Faith?
think that it's an album that Judas Priest fans really, really like. But I think you're right. I think the masses didn't latch onto it because there wasn't a sort of a single, if you will. But you're 100% right. Pound for pound, there's some great songs that they've continued to do live over the years. Yeah, I mean, classics, absolute stone cold classics. Everybody plays great on this album. Great tour. Yeah, I mean, 100%, 100%. They're solidified now. They are permanently metal. They've stripped away all of the other early stuff, and they're really cemented their feet in metal. And there was no denying it. They were flying the flag for metal, and
Yeah,
they were awesome. They're I don't. Things got a little bit hairy a little bit later, again. I feel like 1984 was kind of like, in a lot of ways, for some bands, the last great thing that they did before they kind of went into the hair metal and more commercial and more poppy metal. And for some people they stayed there, and for some people they dipped and then they came back. But it sort of seems like 84 was the last sort of year before the glam hair metal completely blew up and kind of took over everything.
Yeah, and when you've got bands imitating bands, you know, that's where it becomes a little bit beige and there's not a lot of originality. Two more albums I want to briefly touch upon. Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath, King Diamond. That's a pretty strong album. Are you a Merciful Fate
I
fan?
am a Mercyful Fate album. I mean, they did write an album and named it after me. But yeah, this was a great follow-up. And this is where like people were starting to pay a little bit more attention to them. Melissa was known, but it wasn't really, really known. And this is where, in my part of the world, they started to get a little bit more known, a little more airplay. Like again, like I said, more on like the underground metal shows or the college radio metal shows. But they were starting to make a name for themselves in metal and starting to be known as a contender. Um, and they were heavier, right? We were just talking about how a lot of these other bands were kind of moving in more of a commercial direction, and Merciful Fate
Mm,
was still just Merciful Fate.
yeah, and more melodic. I thought the arrangements were better. There was a lot more songcraft. I'm personally a little bit more of a King Diamond fan. And, to me, this album was like a stepping stone in themes and musicology
Yeah,
to some of the
you could
work.
definitely see, you could see where it was going. You could definitely see
Yeah,
where it was going.
absolutely. But the musicology of this band is just mind blowing. Like Hank Sherman and Michael Denner, what a combination!
And
And
they're under.
absolutely, are you a fan of Queensrÿche, The Warning?
Yeah, I mean, this is the beginning of them. This is where you're starting to hear about them and see them. They opened for Iron Maiden. This is where those of us on the East Coast are starting to hear about them and see them.
Mm,
And they went on to do Operation Mindcrime, which is my favorite album from them. But they were another band that came out of, well, they came out of the Seattle area. They came out of the left coast that we were like, wow, these people are really, really, really good. And nobody kind of knew what to call them because there wasn't really a subgenre of prog metal at that time, but they had prog elements. So you're like, well, this is like a metal band, but they have prog elements. And I think that they, for me, were one of the first, them and Fates Warning are the two bands that come to mind of metal bands that kind of added that progressive and sort of were the beginning of what we now call prog metal. So I thought they were very unique. There were some people who were like, "Oh, his voice sounds like Bruce Dickinson," which I don't really think that it does. But so there were some detractors there, but I mean, they were just, Chris DeGarmo, like just phenomenal. They're just a phenomenal band.
yeah, I think they showed promise on this album. I don't think it's a great album, but it showed promise for what
Exactly.
they would do. So
Yeah.
definitely
It was like a nice preview.
needs to be spoken about. We need to talk about Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry. There's obviously they had very strong imagery, a little bit comic in MTV, but you got to admit we're not going to take it as just catchy as hell. Whether it's because it's got that little bit of a cowbell and it's very anthemic. What do you think of Twisted Sister?
So they're so fun, right? And we were just not too long ago, you and I were talking about Kiss. And they played with Kiss. I saw them in 84. That was the first time that I saw them. They opened for Kiss. And they're just a fun band. I mean, don't take it too seriously. They're a fun band. Talented. I mean, everybody could play their instruments and Dee can sing and all of that kind of stuff. And the thing about Twisted Sister is I think that people only know them for like two songs, and they have a better catalog than that. The other thing that happened with them is when they imploded fast. I mean, it wasn't like a dip. They just plummeted, in my opinion, from album to album. But this is a great album, and this is an album that, like you said, it produced a song that everybody knows and that you still hear to this day. And it's an anthem. It's an anthem in sports. It's just an anthem in general.
My daughter was watching Cobra Kai, and what's on the soundtrack? Twisted Sister. We're not going to
Yeah,
take it. So
yeah,
the songs live on.
they do.
Well, there you go, Mel. That's been fun. I
Can I
think
talk
we've.
about one other band, one other
Yeah,
album?
yeah. Oh, okay.
So
Go for it.
I just want to make a shout out about Stevie Ray Vaughan. Can't Stand the Weather came out. This is my introduction to Stevie, uh, who I absolutely love. Guitar hero. If you love really great guitar, you can't deny this man. And we lost him too soon, um, less than 10 years later. And I just wanted to give him a shout out because this was an album that I listened to quite a bit.
In 1984. Yeah, absolutely. And first time I heard Stevie Ray Vaughan was in Let's Dance, David Bowie, and the guitar solo. And I was thinking, what is that? It was just
Yeah,
like when you hear some solos, it just punched through the speaker
100%.
box. It was like
Yeah, yeah.
something that was unique. No, no, thanks for the shout out on that one. Definitely, he was too soon and a great talent. So there you have it, folks. We've gone through quite a few, and
And there
1984
was
was a
a million
very
more. We could have done this
strong.
all day.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's more. There's Y&T. There's Rathchild, Motorhead, um,
Anthrax.
Anthrax. But I think we have covered the ones that were kind of the cream of the crop. So out of all of them, uh, top three.
Top three would be number three, Last in Line, number two, Power Slave, and number one, Ride the Lightning.
I'd
You?
slide it in. Perfect Strangers. Oh, please don't do this to me. Power Slave, maybe, or it could be Tooth and Nail. Oh, there's so many.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna
it
abstain.
interchanges. It changes. I mean, I was trying to do my list and I was just like moving it around and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But it's a golden year. We should do this again. I think another year we should cover is 1980. That's a pretty strong year. So
Yeah. Yes, I got thoughts on that.
absolutely. Listen, you can hear her on Metal Chat. I will put the links down below. Tell us what you think of 1984. Was that the strongest year in hard rock and heavy metal? Tell us there are some picks that we may have missed. Please, we love reading your comments. But one thing's for sure, me and Mel will be doing more shows in 2025 and beyond. Please like and subscribe to Rock Danger Nation. All the best and cheers. See you later. Bye.